My husband started taking long walks every night, alone. Suspicious, I followed him. He sat on a park bench, smiling at his phone, his fingers typing fast. That night, while he slept, I took his watch. It recorded every message he sent. My heart pounded as I read them. I think about you every night. The next evening, I sat on that same bench and sent a text from his phone, turn around. When he did, his face turned white. I've been married to my husband, let's call him Mike, for 12 years. We live in Chicago. Decent life, stable jobs, no kids. Just us and our dog, who honestly might be the only innocent party in this whole mess. We live near Lincoln Park. Everything felt okay. Not amazing, not bad. Just stable. About 5 months ago, Mike started this new habit. Every evening after dinner, sometimes even before the dishes were done, he'd put on his shoes and say, going for a walk. At first, I thought, good for him. Getting fresh air, clearing his head. I didn't question it. It's not like he had to ask for permission. But the walks got longer. First 20 minutes. Then 40. Then over an hour. And it wasn't just that. He started getting weird with his phone. Always keeping it face down. He never used to do that. Started wearing his Apple Watch to bed, which he never did before. In case I miss any important notifications, he'd say. For what? He's not a doctor. His job isn't life or death. We stopped talking as much. We used to sit on the couch and watch dumb TV together. Now he'd watch stuff on his phone, always with one earbud in. When I'd ask what he was watching, he'd just say, nothing really, or just scrolling. One night, something inside me just snapped. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was how quickly he grabbed his phone when it buzzed. Maybe it was how he smiled down at the screen, not realizing I was watching him from the hallway. That smile wasn't for me. So I followed him. Yeah, I know how that sounds. But I wasn't about to ask. I needed to see. He walked the same route he always took, down the block, cut across the corner deli, past the park. He sat down on this specific bench near the lake. I stayed back, behind a tree. He didn't notice me. He was too busy. He pulled out his phone. And he was smiling. Not like a polite smile. A full-on, lit-up smile. His fingers were flying across the screen like he couldn't text fast enough. I stood there for maybe 20 minutes, watching him type, wait, smile, type again. It didn't feel real. This was my husband. This was our park. We used to sit there with coffee on chilly mornings. I walked home before he did. Didn't say anything when he came back. I couldn't. My chest felt like it was caving in. That night, I waited until he was snoring. I took his Apple Watch. I knew his passcode. He never changed it. I didn't even have to dig. The messages were right there. There were hundreds. Some were short. Some were long. Some were explicit. Most were emotional. He wasn't just flirting. He was in love. Or thought he was. To someone named Lily. You make me feel alive again. I hate leaving you every night. I think about you every night. I wish it was you next to me. I'd give anything to fall asleep with you. That one hit me like a punch. Because I was right there. Every night. Right next to him. And he was wishing for someone else. I went cold. My hands were shaking. My throat felt tight. I put the watch back. I didn't sleep at all. Just stared at the ceiling, listening to him breathe, while my world collapsed. The next day, I didn't say a word. I couldn't function. I kept going over the messages in my head. The way he smiled at his phone. The way he typed like he was addicted. The worst part? I still wanted to believe it was all a mistake. Like maybe it was just emotional. Maybe he hadn't seen her in person. Maybe it wasn't that bad. But that night, he went on his walk again. So I came up with a plan. I waited until he was in the shower, then I opened his phone. He never thought I knew the passcode. I texted her. Just one line, meet me at the bench tomorrow. Same time. No reply. But the message showed read. So I knew she'd seen it. The next evening, I went early. Wore a hoodie. Sat on the same bench. Waiting. I watched him walking toward me, from far off. He was holding his phone, reading something. Probably hoping for a reply. He kept looking up, scanning the area. He sat down. Same spot. Started typing. I picked up his phone again. I had it synced to mine through iCloud now. Sent a message from his own number. Turn around. I saw him freeze. He looked around fast, then behind him. When our eyes met, his face went pale. Like truly pale. He looked like he saw a ghost. Sarah, he said, barely audible. He stood up slowly, like I might hit him. I didn't. I just sat there, holding his phone. You want to explain this? I asked. He didn't deny it. Didn't even try. Just sat down, head in his hands. I didn't mean for it to go this far, he said. Classic. He told me they met in an online support group. For anxiety, of all things. Started chatting about coping with stress. Then about marriage. Then late-night confessions. Then daily messages. Then photos. Then phone calls. He claimed it wasn't physical. I didn't sleep with her, he said. But honestly? I didn't believe him. And even if that was true, it didn't matter anymore. I left him sitting there. Walked home. Packed a bag. Stayed with my sister that night. Didn't say a word to him. He called. I didn't answer. He texted. I didn't reply. That was 2 weeks ago. I'm still here. Still trying to figure out what to do next. I don't want advice. I don't want pity. I just needed to tell someone. Because the silence was suffocating me. If you've ever felt something was off, and you ignored it? Don't. Trust that feeling. It's your gut trying to save you. I didn't talk to Mike for 3 days. He texted. Called. Left voicemails. Said things like, we need to talk. Or, I messed up, but I love you. I ignored every one of them. It was Grant Park, Chicago. She wasn't just some woman from the internet. She was local. My stomach flipped. I clicked through her photos. She wasn't some fantasy online fling from 1,000 miles away. She lived in Milwaukee, but posted photos regularly from downtown Chicago. Trains. Coffee shops. The lakefront. Which meant they'd met. In real life. I knew it then. Mike had lied. He said it was all emotional. That he never saw her in person. But there were too many hints. One post was a selfie at the Lincoln Park Zoo. Caption, finally met him. Red heart posted 3 weeks ago. I nearly threw the phone. I confronted Mike the next day. Not face to face, I wasn't ready for that. I texted him one sentence. You saw her in person. Stop lying. He replied within seconds. I'm sorry. That was it. Not, no, I didn't. Just, sorry. I didn't need more. He followed up a minute later. It was one time. She came to the city for a weekend. We got coffee. We walked. I didn't sleep with her. I didn't believe him. The lies had stacked too high. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat up thinking of every time he told me he loved me. Every weekend he said he was busy with work stuff. Every late walk. It all started clicking. This wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. But here's where it gets worse. A week later, Lily messaged me. Yeah. I don't know how she found me, probably through Mike's tagged photos, or maybe she just searched. My account isn't private. Dumb mistake, I know. Her message said, hey. I'm sorry you found out like this. I didn't know he was still with you. He told me you were separated. I stared at the screen, blinking. Separated? I asked her one thing, did you sleep with him? Her reply came 2 minutes later. Yes. I'm sorry. I couldn't breathe. Not because I didn't already know. But because she said it so simply. So casually. Like she was talking about misplacing a phone charger. Mike had lied straight to my face. Lied after I gave him the chance to come clean. I didn't cry. I think I was too empty to cry at that point. All I felt was rage. I screenshotted her message. Sent it to him. Didn't say anything else. He called me 5 times that day. I didn't answer a single one. Later that night, he sent me this long, pathetic wall of text. Saying he was scared to tell me the truth. That it just happened. That he thought we were falling apart anyway. That he didn't know how to fix it. That he still wanted to. I didn't reply. I just stared at the message and thought, you wanted to fix it? After sleeping with her? After lying to me 3 times? But here's the twist I didn't expect. Lily kept messaging me. Almost like she felt guilty. Like she needed me to absolve her. She said he told her all kinds of things. That I was cold. That we hadn't touched each other in over a year. That we were basically roommates. That he was only staying with me until we figured out the finances. None of that was true. And it made me wonder. Was he playing both of us? That's when I decided to meet her. I know. Probably stupid. But I needed to see her. Hear the whole thing. Face to face. We met in a coffee shop in Wicker Park. Middle of the day. Public place. She was normal. Younger than me. Maybe mid-30s. Dressed nice, not flashy. Nervous as hell. I swear, she said, I didn't know. I never would have done it if I'd known. She told me the whole story. How he'd been talking to her for almost a year. A year. Said they messaged every single day. That he told her he loved her. That they planned to move in together once he sorted things with me. He even told her he was looking at apartments in Milwaukee. That hit me like a freight train. While I was cooking him dinner, he was planning a new life. With her. I asked her the last question I had, are you still talking to him? She looked down. Then nodded. I got up. Told her we were done here. Walked out. I haven't replied to either of them since. But that's not the end. Because 2 days ago, Mike showed up at my sister's door. At 8 a.m. No warning. Said he needed to talk. My sister told him to get lost. He didn't. He waited outside. In his car. For 3 hours. Just sat there. Now I'm starting to wonder. What the hell does he want? He already threw away everything. But he won't go away. So yeah, Mike sat outside my sister's house for 3 hours. Didn't knock again. Didn't try to force anything. Just waited. Parked right across the street, staring at the house like a stray dog. My sister finally called the cops, not to report him, but just to let them know there was a guy loitering in a black Honda. That's how far things had gone. From shared toothpaste and grocery runs to silent standoffs from the street. I didn't go out there. I stayed upstairs, curtains drawn, pacing the floor. Every few minutes, I peeked through the blinds, just to see if he was still there. He finally drove off. No note. No message. But he came back the next day. Same time. 8 a.m. And this time, he brought a box. I watched from upstairs as he set it on the porch. Didn't ring the bell. Didn't look back. He got in his car and left. It was just a plain cardboard box. No markings. No writing. I waited until my sister left for work before opening it. Inside were photos. Dozens of them. Us. Over the years. Our wedding. Vacations. Sunday mornings in bed with coffee. Stupid selfies from the couch. All of it. And on top of the pile was something that stopped my heart cold. A framed photo of Mike and me from 2017. But someone had slipped a second photo behind it. I pulled it out. It was a picture of Mike and another woman. Not Lily. A completely different woman. Blonde, tan, standing next to him at what looked like a resort pool. They were in swimsuits, both laughing. His hand was low on her back. I turned it over. The back had handwriting. Cabo, February 2020. I stared at it for a long time. He had never gone to Cabo in 2020. Or at least, not that I knew of. He told me he had a business retreat in Miami that week. So now, there was another woman. And it wasn't a recent thing. This was 3 years ago. Before Lily. Before the walks. Before everything I thought was wrong had even started. Which meant this wasn't a one-time mistake. It was a pattern. I took photos of everything. Sent the picture of the mystery woman to Lily with one line, "Did he ever mention her?" She replied in under 5 minutes. No. Who is that? I didn't answer. I was shaking too hard. That night, I opened an old external hard drive we used to back up our photos. I hadn't touched it in years. I thought maybe, just maybe, he slipped up and saved something he didn't mean to. And there it was. A folder named Archive_2020. Buried inside were dozens of photos from that trip. Him. The same blonde woman. Different outfits. Different days. All smiles. They were together for at least a week. There was one short video too. They were dancing on a rooftop bar. He kissed her on the cheek at the end of it. I felt like throwing up. I confronted him again, this time by email. I didn't want to hear his voice. How many were there? Just tell me. His reply came 2 hours later. I didn't mean for it to happen that way. Didn't answer the question. Just more sorries. More I was lost. More I didn't know who I was back then. Classic coward move. But here's the kicker. That same night, Lily called me. Not messaged. Called. I didn't plan to pick up, but I did. Curiosity? Anger? I don't know. She was crying. Like, really crying. I found something, she said. In his messages. Old ones. From 2019. She'd gone through their entire chat history. Looked back before they even met. She said she found screenshots of other women he'd messaged. Women he met on Reddit, Instagram, dating apps. All while married. All while sleeping next to me. She found messages where he gave them nicknames. Saved them under fake names in his phone. Marie from Tampa. B. Museum girl. And worse, she found voice notes. He was doing this for years. He wasn't just a man who cheated once. Or even twice. He was a serial liar. And somehow, he managed to keep all of it hidden. Until it all came crashing down. Now here's the twist that really broke me. Lily said she was pregnant. I went silent. I don't know if it's his, she said. It might not be. But, if it is, I hung up. I couldn't take one more word. The next day, my lawyer friend called me. I hadn't told her everything yet, just that I was staying at my sister's and dealing with marital issues. She said something that shook me. If you're thinking about leaving, gather everything now. Don't wait. So I did. I spent that weekend backing up every message, photo, screenshot, receipt. I logged into our joint accounts. I checked for hidden spending. And guess what? There were hotel charges. Uber receipts. Gift cards. Charges for lingerie I never received. 2 payments to a woman I didn't recognize, labeled consulting. Everything was right there. Hiding in plain sight. It was my sister who came up with the idea. Invite him over. Set it all up. You don't owe him peace, but you do owe yourself answers. I wasn't sure. But I was tired of the texts, the waiting, the messages from Lily. I was tired of not knowing which version of my marriage was real. So I did it. I invited Mike over for dinner. Not a date. Not a reconciliation. Just dinner. One last talk. He arrived right on time. Hair combed, clean shirt. Like a man going to confession. He brought flowers. I didn't take them. He sat at the kitchen table like it was just another Tuesday. My sister stayed in the living room, close enough to hear everything. I put his watch on the table. His old phone. A stack of printed messages. A folder full of screenshots. I laid it all out in front of him. Start talking, I said. He didn't touch anything. I know about Lily, I began. I know about Cabo. About Marie from Tampa, and Museum Girl. I know about the hotel charges. The gift cards. I know you lied to me every day for the past 4 years. He just stared at the table. Like if he stayed quiet long enough, it would all go away. I waited. You have a baby on the way? I asked. His head snapped up. She told you? She told me everything. He ran a hand down his face. It might not be mine. You think that matters right now? I was shaking. I didn't even realize it until I knocked over my water glass. I didn't clean it up. Neither did he. I didn't plan any of this, he said. I got lost. You stopped being there. I blinked. Oh, I stopped being there? I said, my voice rising. While you were what? Juggling women like a game show? I cooked for you. Cleaned. Paid half the bills. Listened to your stupid rants about your job. And you were out screwing strangers like it was your full-time hobby. I was unhappy, he said. We were broken before this started. And instead of fixing it, you broke it more. He had no answer for that. My sister stepped in then. Couldn't stay quiet anymore. You need to leave, she told him. You've said enough. But I wasn't done. Why? I asked him, tears finally welling. Why didn't you just leave me? If you were so miserable, why stay? Why make me your backup plan? He didn't have an answer. Just shook his head like a man drowning in his own shame. Then he did something that shocked both of us. He started crying. Hard. I don't know, he said. I think I liked the attention. I liked being wanted. I felt like I was disappearing. I stared at him, that pathetic man in my kitchen, crying because his lies caught up with him. You disappeared the day you lied to my face, I said. You don't get to be the victim. He didn't fight back. Didn't yell. He just nodded. And then, quietly, he got up and walked out. No dramatic exit. No shouting match. Just the soft click of the door behind him. Lily stopped messaging me after that. Maybe she realized it was done. Maybe she was too busy sorting her own chaos. Last I heard, the baby was his. He didn't try to deny it. My divorce lawyer filed the papers 2 weeks later. Mike didn't contest. Didn't ask for anything. Just signed. My sister and I celebrated with cheap wine and frozen pizza. Friends reached out. Some were supportive. A few judged me for staying so long. Said things like, you should have known. That part hurt the most. Because I did know. Deep down, I knew something wasn't right. I just wanted to believe it could get better. That people change. Turns out, some people just get better at hiding. It's been 5 months now. I live in a small 1-bedroom apartment near the lake. Just me and the dog. I walk past that same bench sometimes, the one where I first saw him smile at his phone. I don't cry when I see it anymore. I don't miss him either. What I miss is the version of him I thought I married. The man who made me laugh. Who knew how I liked my tea. Who rubbed my back without asking. But that man was a lie. Or maybe he died a long time ago. I don't know if I'll ever trust someone again. I hope I will. But right now, I'm not in a rush. I like the quiet. I like waking up without anxiety. I like not worrying if someone's lying to my face. Sometimes I wonder if he thinks about me. If he ever regrets what he did. But that's not my problem anymore. I stayed longer than I should have. I loved harder than he deserved. I forgave more than he ever earned. But I left. And that's the only part that matters. I'm not healed. But I'm healing. And for now, that's enough.